To make St. Joseph's pasta, you need semolina flour, water, salt, and olive oil. So first what you're going to do is you're going to sift 3 cups of semolina flour into a bowl. This just lightens, aerates the flour, it makes the pasta lighter. Making pasta is fun. You have to get the kids in the kitchen. People think that it's hard. It's so simple. You can do it in minutes. So you have 3 cups of sifted flour. We're going to do about 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Sprinkle that on top. Here we have 2 cups of hot water. And to the 2 cups of hot water, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of good olive oil. Let's mix that around a little bit. And set that aside. Now we're going to add our sifted flour into a stand mixer. Now if you don't have a stand mixer, it's totally fine. Years ago we didn't have these, and we would make a well on the counter. You'd dump the flour down, make like a little nest, and you would pour the water inside and you'd start working the dough by hand. So we're just going to add our flour to the mixer. Just going to attach your dough hook attachment to your mixer. You're going to set it on a medium speed, and you're going to add your oil. Every time you mix the pasta, even though we've sifted 3 cups of flour, you may need to add more flour just to guide it. You don't want the dough to be too sticky, you don't want it to be wet, and you also don't want it to be dry. See how loose this is right now? It's very, very sticky. So at this point, we're going to start adding a little flour at a time until we come to the right consistency. I like to add about 1/2 cup of flour at a time. I'm going to put this back on. Connect our dough hook again. And we're going to add 1/2 cup of flour and continue to mix. At this point, we have the right consistency. It's thick. It's stretchy. It's perfect. So now we're going to take your dough and we're just going to sprinkle some flour. Now you really need a lot of flour on hand for this project. So we're going to take our prepared dough out of the bowl and put it right onto your work surface, floured. Now we don't want to really overwork the dough because through the whole process it's going to be handled a lot. So we kind of just want to get our dough coated in the semolina flour. Now here's where it gets messy. So everyone can laugh at me because you all make fun of me that I clean, I'm a neat freak. But making pasta, as much as I try, it's a messy job. This is just the roller attachment that we're going to need at this point. You fit it into the top of your mixer. Just fit your attachment on. Now some tools that I have found are an absolute necessity to making pasta in an organized fashion. A pastry cutter is my best friend making pasta, and a small rolling pin. If you're going to be cutting it by hand, you need the largest rolling pin that you can find, but the way I do it, I try to have all my sheets of pasta the width of the roller attachment, and this helps me along the way. It's almost about the same size, okay? And again, semolina flour at this point is your best friend. When in doubt, add flour. You need a nice mound here, and we're going to cut small pieces of our prepared dough, about this size. And you're going to move to get set up the right way. I'm going to have my dough up here, I'm going to have my pile here. Take your small rolling pin and just kind of make it somewhat of a rectangle shape, doesn't have to be perfect. but something that looks along the lines like this. The size of the palm of your hand is a good guide, okay? Dip it in the flour both sides. Now on your attachment, you will see there are numbers. You want to set your rolling width to 1. So turn it to number 1. You're going to put it on a medium speed, and we're going to start to roll the pasta through. I always like to put a little flour in to begin. Start feeding it through. Now I'm just going to shut this off so you can hear me better. This is thickness number 1, okay? Every time we go through one of the levels of the dial here, we're going to go all the way to 5 or 4 depending on your likeness. I particularly care for 5. Some families do 4, some do 2. That's very, very thick. You always put the dough through this pile of flour. Using the back sides of your hand when working with the dough is going to prevent it from breaking. After a while, you'll get the knack of it. So now we've floured both sides. We're going to turn our dial to number 2. We're going to put our speed back on to a medium setting, and we're going to feed the dough through your roller again. Now as it comes out, we're going to put it through the pile of flour again. You're just brushing it along. What I have found with this, you really don't get all that caked on flour, but it just picks up enough. So the moisture in the dough will automatically pick up the amount of flour that is needed for it not to stick when it goes through the roller. So now we're going to go to setting 3. We're going to feed it through again. And as you can see, it starts to grow. With time, you'll be more comfortable working with long pieces, but I'm going to show you what you can do at any point. If you feel like the dough is getting too long, use my favorite tool, and you're going to cut it to a length that you feel comfortable working with. So now, we've cut it to an equal length, and we're going to put it through my beautiful pile of flour. This is my favorite part. And again, we're going to change our setting to now setting number 4, and we're going to turn it on and put it through. So now I've moved to my grandmother's machine. It's the hand crank old-fashioned machine. The stand KitchenAid mixes, they do have the attachment, but I prefer to use the hand crank one. The pasta tastes better, and it cuts perfectly. So I have it on the fettuccine setting here. And again, semolina flour is your best friend during this whole process. You want to have a nice mound of semolina flour here right next to you. Your pastry cutter is a great tool to have on hand. Now, I've rolled the pasta through the other attachment. We have sheets of pasta. I try to cut them to somewhat similar lengths. Using the pastry cutter is a great guide. Now, before we put it through the machine, I like to just dust a little flour into the machine, give it a couple of turns, okay? It's a little creaky, but that's the antique machine, and that's how they work, and it's fine. So before we go through, we're gonna go through using the back sides of our hands to not tear the pasta sheets. Now, again, why I like to use this pastry cutter is you get a nice flat edge, so when you go to put it into the machine, it just helps it guide through a lot easier than if it's like a rounded edge and you're trying to like stick it in. You'll see what I mean as you go. So you just lay it over. Now once it's halfway through, you're going to stop. You're going to put your hand underneath the machine and you're going to kind of hold the pasta here in your hand and then continue to crank. And you have beautiful homemade semolina St. Joseph's pasta. Now here I have the drying rack, which really, really helps if you don't have a large area to lay it out over the bed sheets. I find this works great if you have some sort of pull, even if you had to resort to using hangers and line them up on a clothesline, that would also work great. The more air that gets around the pasta, the faster the pasta will dry. You can put it on the bed sheets like our relatives did years ago and do the flour. It works, but this also works. You want to let this dry at least 12 hours before you're going to use it. It can dry longer, but after 12 hours you can take the pasta off the racks and put it into a big plastic bin, airtight. So our pasta has been drying for a 24-hour period. You can see it's perfect, it's hard, it snaps. That's when you know it's dry. You hear the little snap. You're gonna pot of water, salted water. I use kosher salt, about a teaspoon in with a big pot like this. You're just gonna put a couple of handfuls of the pasta right into the boiling water. Now this homemade pasta cooks really fast. It's not like your store-bought box pasta, which takes a lot longer. This cooks in like 3 or 4 minutes tops. Let's give it a little stir around. And this will cook on a high heat for about 2 to 3 minutes. So our pasta has been cooking for about 3 to 4 minutes. As you can see, it turns like a milky white color when it's done. And it's somewhat al dente. It's not, doesn't have a big bite to it, but it has a little bit of a bite. Not mushy, because it will continue to cook. You're putting it with the hot gonza. So we're gonna ladle some of the fresh pasta. Look how beautiful that is. Do you see? It's not super, super duper thick. A lot of people like it thick. I like mine on the thinner side. Put it in. Now we always serve St. Joseph pasta family style. It's like in a big bowl. People would line up at my Aunt Vincie's house down the street with little containers, and they would take a little serving home to their family. It really is like a gift of gold. I call it a gift of gold. And all day people would come in and out, and they just want just a little sampling of the blessed pasta. The priest will come and he bless your fruit, the fruit on the altar, the lemons, the oranges, the bread. Any ingredient that you're going to cook with on St. Joseph's Day is blessed. So when you give this out to your family and your friends, it really is a treasure. It really is a special gift. All right, so now that we have our pasta in here, we're going to ladle. First I'm going to do some of the gonza. As you can see, the gonza is cooked down. See all that cauliflower, you never thought it would break down, but it really does. So we're going to ladle a bunch of the gonza right on. This spider spatula is another great tool that you should have in your kitchen. I love it. I use it for everything. But it's great in something like this when you want the gonza, and then you can ladle in the juices. Some people like theirs on the thicker side. Some might get more like a soup. Every family will do it differently. So you just adjust the juices from the gonza to your liking. Some people like it more soup-like, some people like it drier. One more scoop, and this is how we serve it in our family. It smells so good. The fennel frond, it's a very unique flavor. You either love St. Joseph's pasta or you don't. March 19th comes once a year. It's the most delicious pasta you'll eat throughout the year. I really think we should make it more often. I have to give it a taste and see how I did. There's something about the combination of the fava beans, the chickpeas, and the cauliflower with the fennel. It is absolutely delicious. You have to try it. And if you don't like it this year, At least just have one little spoonful because it's blessed and it'll be with you all year. Happy St. Joseph's Day. Viva San Giuseppe!